So, this is a mobility routine which addresses the whole body to reverse the effects of years of sitting. So using the biotensegrity model of the body, we address areas of pain and dysfunction by considering the body as a whole integrated system rather than just isolating specific problem areas. So where we may be experiencing back pain, for example, this may be as a result of tight hips. So rather than just passively stretching the back muscles for temporary relief, we address the root cause, being the tight hips, by strengthening and lengthening these. So by addressing one area of the body, we can impact another, as the pain, discomfort and dysfunction experienced in a joint or muscle is usually the result of compensations in another area of the body. So this routine addresses the major dysfunctions caused by years of sitting by strengthening and lengthening the muscles which have become weak and slack. And through these exercises, we induce lasting changes to open up and balance the integrity of the body. And just a quick mention here to pay homage to Ben Patrick, Daniel Vardinal, Tom Merrick, Kit Lachlan, Lucas Hardy and Emmett Lewis, as a lot of the information provided is the culmination of their coaching, as well as my own experience having a master's in strength and conditioning and being head coach at ITEL Strength, which focuses heavily on mobility training, working with hundreds of clients at this point. So let's get started.
So this routine starts off with a general warm-up, just to get the blood around the body, spending 5 to 10 minutes. I chose skipping here, but you could do anything, maybe a light jog or star jumps. We don't need to overthink it. So this full routine is attached in a document in the description with all the exercises, the reps, the sets, and the regressions and progressions for each movement. So I would use this video to check the form and the coaching points, and then refer to this document when undertaking this routine, which I'd recommend doing once or twice per week, working towards the benchmarks for each exercise. So for this calf stretch, we've got two options, a slant board or just anything to raise the foot off the ground. So this could be a step, a ledge or a block. Either way, we keep the leg straight, so no bend in the knee, and we just allow the heel to drop towards the ground. So we can begin by alternating one leg at a time, just feeling into the stretch and using a support out in front of us. Over time, we're thinking about leaning further forwards to deepen the stretch and using the support that's out in front of us less and less to put more weight into the stretch. So we're doing this for 2 sets, for 2 minutes each time. So for the slant board, we can progress or regress this by changing the height setting. Over time, the aim is to get to the highest setting with both feet at the same time. For the step variation, again, we can progress or regress this just by simply changing the height of the step. So we're doing this to mobilize the ankle, which is often very stiff due to a lack of movement, as well as being important for the preceding movements in this routine. And we're going to be getting a stretch into the calf muscle, which is often very tight, which can cause unwanted compensations in the plantar fascia, the ligaments and other joints. So the next drill is a Sieza. It's a traditional way of sitting in Japan, with Sieza translating as correct sitting. So it strengthens the postural muscles and displays a good level of flexibility in the knees and ankles, in which we get the ankles into end range plantar flexion and stretch the tibius anterior. So from a upright position on our knees, with the feet flat on the ground, we sit the bum back onto the heels. If this is something you're able to do with no resistance, we're just going to sit in this position for 1 minute. But if this is something that feels out of reach, feeling like the ankles and knees are going to explode, we do need to modify this and work towards this final position. To do so, we elevate the bum with a support, so some blocks, which takes the pressure out of the knees. Or we can roll up a towel and place this under the feet, taking the intensity out of the ankles. Or we can do both of these modifications. We then perform 10 reps, coming in and out of the position, followed by a 30-second hold. Over time, we're incrementally lowering the height of the support and or the thickness of the roll towel until we can comfortably sit in this full Sieza. So next is the wall lunge. This is used to open up the hip flexors and the quads, which hold a tremendous amount of tension from long periods of sitting. So facing sideways to the wall, bring the knee up against it and bring the back foot up and rest that against the wall, as we then rotate forwards with the other foot out in front of us, about shoulder width apart. We start by leaning forwards with the hands out in front of us. So for this first set, we're just exploring into this position for 2 minutes, thinking about squeezing the glute and letting the hips sink towards the ground, extending the hips. We then bring the hands up, playing with different heights over the course of the set. Eventually our aim is to be upright with the hands on the knee without excessively extending through the spine to get into this position. So if you're unable to get into this upright position, we're just going to spend more time with the hands out in front of us, whilst incrementally increasing the height of the hands each week. Or we bring the knee further forwards, away from the wall, which makes this stretch easier. We also do this if the back foot isn't able to sit flush against the wall. but this will improve as we develop our Sieza sit week by week, which we did earlier to develop our ankle plantar flexion. For the first set, we're just exploring into this position for 2 minutes, working on slowly coming upright. For our second and third set, we come upright, so we modify this as needed by bringing the knee further away from the wall. From here, we perform 8 reps, moving in and out of end range hip extension. We then hold our final rep for 30 seconds. For many beginners, this will feel very intense, but as the weeks go on and you start to open up, I'd encourage you to do this wall lunge weighted, so holding a weight overhead and following the same cues, as the hip flexors can be very stubborn and do favour being loaded. Our benchmark aim is to be completely upright, with the bum making contact with the wall and the knee flush against the wall. So the next exercise is the ATG Split Squat. Our primary use for this is to develop the flexibility in our hip flexors, whilst also strengthening them as we perform this stretch under the load of our body in an active manner. So we set up by bringing the front foot forward and then descending with control over this front foot. Our focus is to keep the rear knee from contacting the ground by actively extending the rear leg as straight as possible, all whilst keeping the body upright. You'll notice the knee travelling as far as possible over the toes, which requires a high degree of ankle dorsiflexion, which will develop over time and is addressed at the start of the routine with the calf stretch, which again will improve session by session. So the goal is to be able to do 10 reps with both feet on the ground. For the purpose of this routine, a benchmark to aim for is holding 10% of body weight in each hand. So for me, at 90 kilograms, this would be 9 kilograms in each hand for 10 reps. However, for the majority of people, this is an endpoint to work towards after months of training. Our starting point to make this accessible for everyone is to elevate the front foot, and over time we incrementally lower the height of this elevation. We also begin with using assistance, so the support of a wall or a stick to reduce the balance component. Again, session by session, we aim to use this support less and less, but there's no rush, we just keep a track of this in our training log. So by getting competent in this movement, we develop range of motion, strength and stability in the hips, which restores more functional movement. This reduces the stress placed on the lower back, which often has to compensate for tightness and weakness in the hips, a common cause of chronic pain and discomfort. So next, we have the Reverse Nordic. This movement stretches and strengthens the quads and hip flexors, countering the tightening and weakness caused by constant sitting. It's also effective in building strength and stability around the knee joint, as we address tightness and weakness in the rectus femoris and the patella tendon. To set up, we stand upright on our knees, with our feet wide enough apart that we can fit between them. We then tuck the hips, squeeze the glutes, brace the core, and keep the chin tucked as we descend with control backwards towards the floor. Now, for most people, this range of motion won't be possible, and the strength demand's too high. So we regress this by using objects to reduce the range of motion and use the assistance of bands. So session by session, we work on reducing the height of the object to incrementally increase our range of motion. And with the bands, we go from using a thick band with lots of tension to assist us, down to a thinner and thinner band to assist us less and less. So our benchmark aim is to be able to make contact with the ground without excessively arching the spine. Be patient with this, as it can take months to reach this point, so don't rush this progression model. Work at a safe range of motion that works for your individual body, and don't push through sharp pain, as we do need to allow time for the tissues in the body to adapt to these end range movements. Next, we have the Tailor pose sequence. We perform this to open up the adductor muscles, which are commonly very tight and bound up in the general population from years of sitting. By opening up the hips in this way, we take tension out of the lower back, which can alleviate symptoms of back pain. We also develop our hip external rotation, regaining our ability to sit cross-legged on the floor. We perform the Tailor pose by standing with our back to the wall and our feet together. We then lower down onto our bum, allowing the knees to drop by our side, keeping the palms of our feet in contact with each other. For the first set, we just sit passively in this stretch for 2 minutes, relaxing and breathing calmly, just to reduce the tension in this area. For some of you, the knees may be very high, and this is fine. Just again, relax into this pose. But if it feels very out of reach to sit in this pose, we regress this by sitting onto a block, raising the bum as high as required to sit in this pose. So after the 2-minute hold for the first set, we take a rest for a few minutes. For the second and third set, we're performing an active sequence of contractions, which is going to stimulate the adaptations to develop strength and length in this pose. So first, we press the knees downwards into the ground with maximum effort for 10 seconds, which we repeat 3 times. Use objects under the knee so that you can make contact during the contraction, using an elevation which is within reach but does challenge your level of mobility. Straight after the 3 sets of contractions, we then perform 8 reps coming in and out of end range, thinking about getting the knees deeper and deeper. After the 8th rep, we then grab 2 weights and perform the same movement loaded for 8 reps. So we have a sequence of active contractions, bodyweight reps and loaded reps, all performed as one set, which we then repeat one more time for our 3rd set. So this may all sound a lot to remember, but again, it is all written down in a PDF attached, so please refer to this when performing this routine. Our benchmark aim is to be able to get the knees in contact with the floor, with the feet in close to the body. Work on incrementally lowering to this point over months of training. So next, we have the active and passive pigeon pose. We use these exercises to develop strength, length and stability in the hips, specifically the glutes, piriformis and hip flexors. Sitting in chairs causes these muscles to become weak and slack as they are inactive for prolonged periods of time. This leads to imbalances around the hips, causing instability and compensatory overactivity in the surrounding musculature, including the lower back, causing strains and pain. Tightness in the piriformis is also a common cause of sciatica, as tightness in this area pinches on the sciatic nerve. So the pigeon pose develops strength, length and stability in the hips, crucial for developing a strong and balanced foundation in the body. To set up, we bring our foot onto the bench, resting our knee at a right angle, extending the back leg as far back as possible. We then support the weight of our body for 10 seconds, driving the knee into the bench to activate the glute and keep us upright. We then support our weight with our hands for 10 seconds, just to break up the intensity of the stretch. We then repeat this 2 more times, so actively holding ourselves upright with the legs for 10 seconds. So we do 3 10-second active holds in a set, which we repeat twice on each leg. For most people, the flat bench will be too intense, so we regress this by bringing the bench up to an incline which works for you. We then lower this down over time until we can perform this on a flat bench. If you've not got access to a bench, we perform a similar sequence on the ground, but even if you have access to a bench, I'd still recommend doing 1 or 2 sets of this floor variation after the sequence on the bench, as it specifically develops our ability to sit in a full pigeon pose on the ground, which is our benchmark aim for these exercises. So on the floor, we have the knee at 90 degrees. Don't let the foot come backwards towards the groin, as this takes the stretch out of the glute. From here, we hinge the torso forwards for 8 reps to deepen the glute stretch in an active manner. We then hold in the bottom position after our final rep for 10 seconds, and then again hold in the upright position for 10 seconds. And we perform 2 sets of this on each leg. So from the floor will be out of reach for most people. Being able to do this from the ground is the end point. So we start by elevating the knee and glute as high as required, which we incrementally lower over months of training. We do the same for our head, which we support with a block. Like I've said, the end goal is to be able to perform this on the ground, as our benchmark aim is to be able to sit in a full pigeon pose flat on the ground, both upright and with our head on the ground out in front of us. So next, we have the stiff leg deadlift, used to develop competency in the hip hinge movement pattern. Sitting in chairs often causes people to slouch, which weakens the lower back, making us vulnerable to injury and pain. The constant 90-degree angle of our legs in chairs also causes the hamstrings to become shortened and weak over time. So the stiff leg deadlift both strengthens the lower back and lengthens and strengthens the hamstrings. To set up, we have the feet hip width apart with a slight bend in our knee. We sit the bum back as if we're trying to close some drawers behind us, maintaining a straight spine as we descend, and then coming back up in the same manner but reversed, performing 10 reps of this. For most people, I would start by limiting the range of motion, performing with just our body weight, getting used to the hip hinge movement pattern. Over time, I would then gradually lower the contact point to increase the range of motion, but only do this as long as we can maintain a straight back. So work in a range that works for you and track this over time. The goal is to be able to get the back parallel to the ground. Once we can achieve this range of motion, we can start adding weight. Again, adding the weight incrementally, session by session, with the benchmark aim being 40 kilograms with a barbell, reaching a 90-degree angle. Moving up to the upper body now for shoulder flexion pullovers and thoracic spine extension. Again, years of sitting in chairs and working at desks causes us to hunch over, as many of us already know. This causes the shoulders to round and the neck to jet forward, which is both dysfunctional and aesthetically unattractive to most people. So these 2 exercises specifically reverse this forward posture, restoring better functioning in the shoulder and movement in the upper spine. To set up, we bring the upper back onto the support of a bench or any support available. thrust the hips upwards, squeezing the glutes, keeping the hips tucked and the core braced. Bring the weight up with the arms straight and locked. We then lower the weight back behind us with control, thinking about slowly progressing the range. So we can also use a contact point to objectively measure progression, which you can lower over time. We also start off quite light on this one, and we can progress this by incrementally increasing the load used. So in a set, we perform 5 reps of this. We then perform our spinal extension pullovers in the same set for another 5 reps. So we use the same setup for this spinal extension, but this time as we come down with the weight behind us, we let the hips sink towards the floor at the same time, creating extension through the spine. So in this set, we do 5 shoulder flexion pullovers, followed by 5 spinal extension pullovers, which we perform 2 sets of. There's no real benchmark for this one. We don't need to push the weight, 10 to 15 kilograms maximum. Our focus is more on opening up the range in the shoulders and spine with good form. So film this from the side and track your progress. So the next exercise is the shoulder extension stretch. We use this to open up the chest, develop shoulder extension, crucial for shoulder stability and mechanics, as well as stretching the bicep, which, like the hamstrings, is chronically in a bent position when we're sat in chairs. So we're mobilising multiple areas with this stretch. To set up, we bring our hands behind us and grab onto a support. I'm using stall bars here, but you could use a barbell in a rack or find a similar alternative. So we begin with a wide grip, grab the support and think about having a proud chest, not allowing the shoulders to round forward. Once you're in position, we will be simply holding this passive stretch for 30 seconds, which we will repeat for 2 sets. Our goal is to progressively get the hands up higher behind us and the hands closer together to increase the intensity of the stretch. Our benchmark aim being hands shoulder width apart at just below shoulder height. So next we have the hanging leg raise. This is a bang for your buck exercise as it targets multiple problematic areas caused by hours of sitting. It can mobilise, reshape and heal the shoulders. Hanging decompresses the spine, opening up better posture, and the leg lifts are used to strengthen the hip flexors, which are often very weak from sitting. So we've mobilised them in this routine, but this exercise is used to strengthen them. Key for longevity for simple tasks as we get older, like standing up and walking. To perform this, we hang from a bar and bring the knees up as high as we can. We can start one knee at a time if required, aiming to perform 2 sets of 10 reps. If we can perform this with relative ease, we can progress this by holding a weight with our feet and progressing this session by session. We can then progress this further by doing the straight leg version, again aiming for 2 sets of 10 reps. We can start one leg at a time and then do both. Next, we have the wrist stretch. For many of us, the wrists are constantly flexed, working at desks and with our hands. So it's important that we stretch the wrist to oppose this tightening. It also develops the range of motion required in the wrist for our final exercise. To set up, we turn the hands outwards, placing the palms onto the ground with our fingers pointing back towards us. The closer to our bodies we do this, the easier the stretch becomes. The further away, the deeper the stretch is. We then explore into this stretch, rocking forwards and backwards, side to side, and in a circular motion, keeping the elbows locked and the weight into our hands. We perform this for 30 seconds. We then bring the hands up in front of us and actively pull the fingers back towards us, which we do for 10 seconds. We then repeat this stretch for 1 more set. So the final exercise in this routine is the back bridge push-up. The back bridge is a position which expresses flexibility throughout the entire anterior chain, making this position a good indicator of how mobile we're getting across the joints worked throughout this routine. To set up, we lay on our backs and bring the feet up onto a raised surface to make this position easier. It also puts more emphasis on the thoracic spine by having the feet raised. We then bring our hands back behind us at about head height and just wider than shoulder width apart, with the fingers pointing back towards our feet. From here, we push with the arms and extend with the hips towards the ceiling, thinking about pushing the weight backwards over the hands to really extend through the upper spine. We then lower with control towards the ground, repeating this for 5 reps. Over time, we can lower the feet as you get more proficient in this exercise and bring the hands closer to the feet to increase the bend. Over months of training, you may eventually be able to get to a full bridge position with the feet on the ground. A benchmark aim being to reach a full bridge with legs extended and the shoulders over the hands, displaying a high level of mobility across the whole body and a good position to perform quickly to maintain the adaptations gained from the individual isolated exercises in this routine. So that's it for this routine. I understand that it may be a lot to take in and do, but I do truly believe it will serve you highly and be worth the time and effort to undertake. Again, the PDF with all the exercises, sets and reps is attached in the description. Visit the website at italstrength.com. I offer coaching services free programs like this one, and much more. My email's down below if you need to contact me for anything else. Thank you.